Back with the Baru?
So here I wanted to highlight. We've talked about this before on my channel, Zebec and the science card purchase that they made, but they hints forth afterwards brought out an interview in which they went on a deeper dive with the science card guys. So I want to kind of point out some things with this science card thing, as well as mention kind of some statistics, as well as get into a deeper dive about who these two gentlemen are. Okay, so without further ado, we're just gonna hop right into it.
Pending the financial regulatory landscape that will be developing in the space, we do see greater appetite in the conversations that we're having with higher education institutions in the adoption of stablecoin payments. Now, I think for us as well, this technology offers the idea of, essentially streamlining certain payment services. Daniel alluded to tuition fee payments, accommodation payments. Mm-hmm. But, you can also make the accessibility into higher education much more prominent. You want people to have their own personal and family circumstances better reflected in the tuition fee payment system that they make. So you want a tuition fee payment to be able to allow the students and their families to pay these tuition fees, maybe not in a bulk payment,
sure,
which could hinder access to higher education, but essentially distribute it out over terms.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
So I just want to touch on right there. So he said it's a greater appetite for USD payments in education. So I think that's really huge. And again, we keep hearing about stablecoins.
The key to industry transformation, the key to success is developers.
So I think that's really important to point out, and I'll go back just a little bit and start again.
Stewardship of the Zebec ecosystem, what you're most excited about in terms of like the growth opportunity then for Science Card and also that DeSci opportunity.
Yes, so there's the two things we're very excited about. The first thing is attacking the student space.
Yeah.
Prepaid cards with the stablecoin system, making that accessible. Then the second thing is addressing the tuition fee business and market, leveraging stablecoin as well. And then the third thing is exactly what we're talking about, helping the universities raise funding through the Zebec ecosystem, and make those science projects work. So this is very exciting, and the scalability here is just massive.
Are you able to quantify? And I'm just curious, like in the UK, for example, I'm not familiar with the numbers, but in terms of like number of students, the size of this pie,
so you have each year around 3 million students in the UK. Of it is around 700,000 international students.
Yeah.
Each year, roughly 250,000 new arrivals are coming.
Wow.
So the beauty of students, as from a payment business perspective, is you have every year, you have new customers coming in. So there's always a constant stream. So there's 700,000 international students, total 3 million students in the UK.
Wow.
And together they make a massive payment volume.
Huge.
Yeah,
huge. It's a massive opportunity.
So that's really an important part that they're pointing out there. And they mentioned with Asian students, they may transfer money to their university, or their parents might transfer money to the university. They don't know if it's cleared yet. Right? So now if you bring in something like Zebec cards, instant payments, real-time payments, it's cleared already. It's going to clear instantly. They're going to know what's going on immediately. So you got transparency there and the immediate clearing of payments for their child, right? So I think really addressing students and having students be able to use an instant payment card is huge. Students spend a lot of money, drinking. Any college student will tell you that. Drinking, partying, stuff like that. Not only with tuition, but with grant payments too. But I think the biggest thing for me is having a student have access to an instant payment card. But yeah, we'll continue on here. I checked on the stats and he's right. It's around 3 million according to Gronk.
Grok.
Definitely
not according to Rob Gronkowski, but that's okay. We knew what Rob. We knew what Rue meant.
So we're gonna get into that in a little bit here later. But he's spot on. Around 3 million students. So a lot of times we forget that Britain, is just a little island. So imagine now this is being used in America when there's tons more students, tons more exchange students. Oh man.
You know what? We should probably do a separate dive on that and just even from a conservative point of view, what if they were to just do 10%, and then look into a little bit of the tokenomics, the supply, and just see how much of that sector itself would, what would be the potential? You know what I mean? That'd be really interesting.
Right, because think about it, guys. Their buyback, which is part of their deflationary mechanism, is based on Zebec instant card spending. Okay, so that's really huge when you think about it, right? So I'm glad they brought up some of the numbers, and we're going to look at some of the numbers a little bit here later.
And so I guess the priority then is to go out and form relationships with more of those universities and acquire more of those students as customers and users.
Absolutely. I think with Zebec, this concept of having a co-branded card with all the possible, financial inclusion criteria, I think within the product that goes out to the universities helps not only attract the students, it helps attract the staff, it helps attract essentially also the university itself at some point through treasury management initiatives, which, Zebec is also big on. And then subsequently also the alumni that leave the university because, just looking at it from a, purely unit economics perspective, we're not just acquiring customers that sometimes hang on for a year or a few weeks. You have the potential of capturing that customer base over a longer period.
Sure.
And through, I would say, Zebec's infrastructure and reach, we're able to create that longevity in a card product that is potentially otherwise missing for the space that we're trying to approach, which is the higher education sector.
Yeah. Hadn't thought of that. It's a great onboarding tool, but then these students, they go on to live long lives and
prosperous lives.
Right, you've been able to onboard them. That's amazing. Listen, guys, this is really fascinating. I want to congratulate you both on
Thank you.
Such
Thank
a
you so
great
much.
product built. I think it's clear why Zebec has worked with you guys to make this acquisition.
They're using very kind of coded language, but to say it straight, you're getting students in the early kind of growth of their spending, and now they're going to be really sticky with their product in that they're going to be spending the Zebec card for the rest of their lives. So you're now having this 18-year-old is going to blossom into a 20-year-old, into an eventual manager, and they're going to use the Zebec card.
The concept of customers for life.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, then you're onboarding a next wave with your freshmen, your sophomores, your juniors, your seniors, people with their undergraduate degree, and then also their graduate degrees, masters and so on. So that's very interesting. That's a payment ecosystem at the university level.
Right. So every year, so when they say being very sticky, this is a term that I guess the sales use. That it's really gonna be in their hands more, like it's gonna stick to them. But every year you have a fresh new crop of recruits that are gonna spend and use and pay with your card, and the possibility is that they're probably gonna use it and be a customer for life, like you said.
Right, and who comes in for the harvest? Us. Think about it. New seeds are your freshmen's.
Yeah.
Thing blasts off, then you have your harvest. What's next? New seeds once again, and it just you keep this ecosystem going, man. It's pretty awesome.
Yep. I looked up these guys. We got Daniel, and I'm not gonna butcher his last name, but I'm gonna try. Bayriswil. See here, of course, founder, CEO of Science Card, and he goes on to become an advisor. They both become an advisor at Zebec, which makes sense since they were purchased that they're going to advise on their product. You can see here Magic Carpet AI, which also got bought here by blockchain.com. You can see here he has a PhD in biomedical engineering. So smart guy.
And another thing to point out, go up for a second. He's also from the University College London, and basically Paolo Tesca, who is co-founder of Quant Network with Gilbert Verdian, is also professor at the University College London. Dr. Luke Riley, also from Quant Network, University College London. So just some things I wanted to point out in that regard. So when you see the terminology distributed flow, and again, bioengineering, how do we apply that to, some of these things? Even Quant Network, Laura Verdian, rich ties to the medical industry, and then rich ties to blockchain, distributed ledger technologies with the healthcare sector, medical, and so on. So just a few more interesting common ground connections.
Okay, and then you see here, he also had fixed income, currency, and commodities experience for the UBS Bank of Switzerland. That's pretty interesting there. Okay, grad student at Caltech, nanotech internship. So he got more into his professional career around this time. So, wow, a pretty good resume there from him. And we can see here John Vardakis. I'm going to say Vardakis.
Another UCL guy.
Yep. So let me see here. I think, did I pass it? Okay, here we go. So Partnerships Manager, University of East London. Director and co-founder of Science Card, of course. Senior Research Scientist in Tumor Mechanics and Nanoscale Engineering. So you can see here these guys are they've really been a part of just like biomed engineering. So science is something that they really understand as far as that's concerned. And you can see that they know a lot about their craft, so they would be interested in getting funding for biomed type of stuff, for DSci type of stuff, right? So they know what they're talking about in that field. Research fellow in cardiovascular, cerebrovascular biomechanics, senior research scientist and group leader in computational modeling of dementia. Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
DPhil in biomedical engineering.
University of Oxford. I mean, those are really prestigious colleges and universities.
So these guys are really just like definitely leaders in their field. And I'm sure they've been like in the position academically where they would need funding for certain projects. So I'm sure Science Card came out of the need of them wanting funding for their research, right? So they actually got together and created a company that would provide for that, or would have the ability to get funding for that. So that's really cool to see. So very, very accomplished guys. It makes sense that Zebec would have them on as advisors since they bought the company. And I really can, being like also in these roles as advanced scientists and students themselves, they would know how this card could work for students, as well as research scientists, right? So they're more than what's the word? They're more than qualified for the position, right?
Rue, let me ask you something.
Sure.
When you were a kid going to school, especially in elementary school, do you ever have a program called Running for the Arts?
No.
Where you would like run around the school, field, the track around the school, and then you raise money. I kind of look at it like this is taking a small concept to like the next level, if you will, because you're creating incentives for not a bunch of elementary schoolers. Nothing against elementary schoolers. I used to teach elementary school. Love those kiddos, right? But at a collegiate level, you create incentives, loyalty programs. Loyalty to who? The university. You create student incentives. I mean, and where does it end? I mean, if you think about it, like how many clubs, right? We talk about like book clubs, chess clubs. There's so many clubs at the collegiate level, right? Like I used to be in debate club, So it just, there's so many examples of like how you could raise money for whatever program you have. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I think that's a underlooked thing. They said it once, but this is a good idea for people who want funding as far as like fundraising, as far as like the alumni are concerned, and as far as like any businesses are concerned. I think it would be very easy to say to an alumnus or as far as businesses are concerned, and this is something that definitely affects people, and my heart's out to any people that this is affected. But it would be really easy to say to a donor, like, "Hey guys, like we're looking at cancer research, we're looking at dementia research, right? We're looking at research for ALS or something like that," and really have a easy flow and conduit through a Zebec card to now say, okay, well, now we can get that funding to people immediately. That's cool, man.
That is super cool.
So so to me, this definitely does provide an easier way for these guys to get funding for students and higher level students like themselves to be research fellows and things like that. This does provide a really, really easy way for them to get funding from donors and alumni and businesses.
And it cuts out a lot of the red tape and middlemen. So many, things like how many of us have probably donated to a lot of organizations where that money is not going 100% to the cause. You're getting maybe 20% off of like $100. So like $20 is going to it, and the rest is going to all
fees, processing.
Yeah, and to buy some guy the down payment on his Ferrari or something, which sounds horrible, right? Yeah. But with blockchain, we can verify what's going to who and for what. We talk about these fundraising, like you can create a little ecosystem with all these different clubs. Yeah, that sounds like it might be small if you look at it from the perspective of it's just one university. This thing that these guys mentioned in this interview, word of mouth will spread.
Yeah.
I mean, this could can you imagine this becomes the standard for universities, all universities moving forward?
Right, and we think about things as far as funding for everybody thinks about football and stuff like that, but what we really lack thoughts about are these research fellows. It's always nice to have a new stadium and all of that, but there are people there that are working on things like dementia, like quantum computing and things like that, that, you know, might have a bigger impact than some of those other things, right? So this provides a really, really great conduit for these guys to get funding for this really fast with no red tape and
in
very
seconds.
little fees. Very little fees in
Right.
seconds.
Yeah, little
So-
fees, little to no fees. Little fees, not no fees. Gotta make some money, right? But yeah, within seconds, that's game changer.
That's huge, man. That's huge. And what I wanted to look at what Gronk was
Grok.
some of the
Shout out to Rob Gronkowski, right?
Mama call it Clay, I'm gonna call it Clay. Okay. So he was right in his totals, right? Comparison of student enrollment by year, it's really close to like 3 million, like 2.94 here, 2.9 here. And then I looked and saw what the average amount was that they spent per year. So it's basically something like 13K pounds, which I think would be like 17 or 18.
Yeah, because pounds are worth more than dollars, right?
So basically, I did the computations on that, and I think it came out to. I'm just gonna. Okay, so it came out to basically. Okay, so it's like $37.7 billion opportunity. If you take 2.9 million students and multiply that by, I just did 13K pounds, so roughly 37.7 to like 40 million or 40 billion pound opportunity. This is, of course, saying that every student had a Zebec card and every student put their total amount that they spend on the Zebec card, it would be that amount of an opportunity. So, of course, you know, not every student is going to have a card. You know, it's going to have to be adopted over time. They'll probably give it to the students that they know the most, like in the science areas and things like that. And it branches out and it branches out and it branches out. This is it's a low ball because if I go back to Rock here, I didn't include the 248. I just did 13,000. So I just did 13K. So it's a little bit of low ball. And again, it's a low ball-ish because this is assuming every student put all of the money that they spent during the year on their Zebec card. So again, real adoption takes time. So it might not happen like, of course it's not going to happen like this all at once. But over time and over, you know, new students every year, it could be like even way more than this over time. So I really do think this is a great opportunity, especially when you think about how sticky it is for a student, as long as they're, you know, handling their business with their Zebec card properly and they're not, you know, overdrafting it and all of this other stuff. Of course, but that's a fee and all of that.
Another thing I want to point out, I'm not going to bust out my debit card, but you guys can do it. Literally look at it from this perspective. Put it into layman's terms. Bust out your debit card. Then look at something like this and literally compare the two. And in your mind, take this visual and say, like, you know, here's my Wells Fargo debit card. What can I do with this? And then just kind of like think to yourself, I can do maybe a little bit of, you know, Wells Fargo rewards. Okay, what will that percentage be? Okay, what is that tied into? All right, so then you kind of give yourself a brief list. Let's just face it. Then you look at the one from Zebec. And like, if you're a student, you're literally having that conversation with you. At least I would. And I'd be like, geez, there's this whole grocery list of all these awesome incentives. And like, no, you're not going to be like, well, I'll use a little bit on this. No, you're going to be like, I'm going to use all of it on this. And then think about how many other people will do it. If you create more reasons to, yes, exactly. Because back to the example, this represents 5 to 7 days and so, especially if the weekend comes, or what if it's the holidays? Oh, shoot, what if it's Christmas vacation? 2-week winter break, right? Give me a break. Seconds? Few days, weeks? I mean, come on, man.
Just wait until the first science student says, "Bro, I get paid by the second," and they're able to do something that another student can't. They're going to get that card immediately. Just wait.
Exactly.
So I'm really excited about what they said there. I'm really excited. I'm really excited that Zebec gave us this interview, and I think we were talking about this once when we were talking about, it was like a quant video, and I was like, what if they use this for universities? Like the thing would be, I'm not saying that I gave them the idea, but I did think it was a great idea then, and I think it's a great idea now. So if you guys made it to the end, I need you to put science science in the end card, and we'll know that you made it all the way to the end. For my guy Max, it's Rue. We're out. Peace.
Peace.